Contra for many is the name most associated with an iconic run-and-gun shooter series. First unleashed in arcades in 1987 and boasting hilariously off-brand depictions of Sly Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, it went on to spawn a litany of ports and sequels, infuriating all who came into contact with its particular brand of uncompromising controller-destroying gameplay, before sputtering to a somewhat undignified halt somewhere in 2019 with the release of Contra Rogue Core. In '94, however, Contra debuted on the Sega Mega Drive under the name Contra Hardcore. It boasted a few extra bells and whistles when compared to earlier entries, selectable characters with dedicated weapons and abilities, not to mention a branching storyline leading to alternate possible endings. I remember playing it. I remember it having a ridiculous amount of explosions. I remember not being very good at it. Despite my opinions, however, mod developer Atomic Armadillo still went with Hardcore as the name when it came to bringing the side-scrolling gameplay of the Contra series to the most natural of fits. You know exactly what I'm gonna say because it's in the title of the video. That's right, Doom 3. Previously available for the base version of Doom 3, this version functions as a touched-up remaster running under a source port by the name of... hold on, I'm gonna try and say this as accurately as I can. Doom 3. So, with the preamble out the way, what about the mod itself? Current version that I'm playing here features 2 full levels, the first of which being Wasted Hate, taking place in the Mars City waste disposal facility where naturally you have to clear out its pesky demon infestation. There's a few notable changes here between Hardcore and its source Contra inspiration, the first of which being that you can take multiple hits. In Contra, it's pretty much tradition that one hit takes you down, you lose a life. Here, you've got the Doom standard 100 points of health, which can then be supplemented with armor, adding an element of damage reduction into the mix too. You've got a melee to take care of those zombies that get a little too up close and personal, and you've also got a dash, allowing you to dash through enemies and also deal damage at the same time. Weapons here come in the form of pickups, which you'll need to smash open in order to acquire whatever's inside, and once done, will go into one of your 2 available weapon slots. No carrying around your entire arsenal here, unfortunately, and on top of that, you'll also have to keep an eye on available ammunition, which in Contra was never that much of a concern. Everything pretty much had unlimited ammo, and that's because the levels themselves were absolutely goddamn relentless. In that regard, you could certainly say that the levels of this particular mod are outright leisurely strolls in comparison. Certainly a lot more forgiving, that's for sure. If anything, you certainly get the sense that most of this mod is coasting on the novelty value of what it's presenting. And don't get me wrong, it is novel. It's really cool. I've never seen Doom 3 presented this way. And honestly, when it comes to this introductory level here, I feel like they've done a bang-up job of bringing the idea to life. That said, it does have its irritations. Taking a hit, for example, will cause you to fly back a short distance, which is a massive pain in the ass when you're trying to do some platforming and combat above a death pit. And with regards to the death pit, it puts you in a bit of a false frame of mind when it comes to progression during the later parts of the level, where if you weren't already aware of it, you're actually supposed to drop down this shaft in order to continue going. Honestly, it needs a little bit more signposting, because there was a few trial runs I did of this where I just flat out didn't realize what I was supposed to do, and ended up just back and forthing this initial part of the level, wondering if there was a door I needed to unlock to actually run through and progress. But no, this is the way you need to go. And I'm sure you can see the issue with taking the leap of faith though, because until you actually drop, it doesn't reveal the lower sections of these platforms that you can safely progress on. And the consequence here is you do lose a life if you fall in the death pit. Sure, you go back to a checkpoint, sure, the kills you've already racked up are still present, but lose all those lives, it is back to a full restart of the level, and yeah, having to do that just sucks. In terms of the weapon selection during the course of this level, it's pretty standard stuff, all things considered. You'll progress from your standard default weapon to the machine gun, be able to bag yourself a shotgun along the way, and if you do a little bit of exploration below these platforms here, you'll be able to bag yourself the best thing in the stage, the grenade launcher. And trust me, the grenade launcher will stand you in extremely good stead when it comes to taking on the boss lurking at the end of this stage. It's not that this fight is particularly complex, it's just that the grenade launcher in general takes absolute chunks out of that enemy health bar. So if you want this to be over and done with sooner rather than later, then yep, grenades are certainly the way to go. Next level here is Hellraiser, taking a notable departure from the tech bases of the UAC and plunging you straight into the depths of hell. There's certainly a noticeable uptick in intensity between this level and the last, and when it comes to traversal, there is a damn sight more platforming to be done here. Less of just running straight left to right, and more considering which platforms you either want to be jumping up to or dropping down to. I will say, however, that the visual theming of this level probably doesn't do it any favors when it comes to readability of what you can and cannot walk on. For the longest time in the earlier portion of this level, I assumed that if I was dropping below a certain set of platforms, that would be a death pit. As it happens, it's just a river of blood. You can wade through it, no problem, it washes off, but later on it does sprinkle in some death pits, just to keep you on your toes, I guess. You've also got the introduction of collapsing platforms and bridges, which is pretty neat, and the introduction of additional enemy types, such as the Cacodemons. Intriguingly, you can actually destroy the projectiles that emanate from Cacodemons. Same is true of imps from the preceding level, and believe it or not, if you're particularly savvy with your aim, you can even plink standard incoming bullets out of existence. As for the weapon selection during the course of this level, it is mercifully a heck of a lot more varied in comparison to the first. You'll gain access to the likes of the flamethrower, the plasma gun, and the chain gun. Though ammunition-wise, you might want to keep an eye on the fact that both the flamethrower and the plasma gun share the same ammo pool. Speaking of ammunition, it's worth being extra considerate of how much you've got left by the time you reach this final confrontation, because there's just something about the setup of the fight here that absolutely drains your reserves, to such a degree that I found the best tactic was to just start meleeing the crap out of this Revenant shins, just to make sure I had enough left over in order to take out that annoying as heck chain gunner perched up top. Best I can figure, this level just straight up doesn't do itself any favors when it comes to ammo balancing. I've honestly tackled this section of level a fair few times, and every single one of them I've found myself really struggling by the end of it when it comes to just having anything left to shoot, resulting in the situation you see here, having to deal with a boss enemy after taking out the chain gunner and resorting to dashing into it to deal damage or just hitting it with my melee. It's pretty goddamn wonky, and God forbid you run out of ammo before you even trigger the boss character, because God is it a lot of effort to do it with just dash and melee alone. Here's the proof, by the way. It can be done, it is possible, it's just not a lot of fun. I think it's certainly worth mentioning that despite being kinda soured by the way that the second level develops, it's still relatively early days for this particular mod. It's not full release, there's only 2 levels available, and I imagine there is a metric crap ton of balancing yet to do when it comes to current and future levels. But if you're interested in seeing what may be potentially in store for hardcore in the future, you might as well take a little gander at the Playground test map. Not only will this give you a full roster of weaponry to mess around with, but it'll also give you a tour through a lot of the things they've been developing when it comes to the construction of the levels themselves. There's some genuinely neat stuff in here that I'm honestly really looking forward to seeing implemented in actual levels. I mean, for one, who doesn't love a jetpack? And secondly, there's a lot of potential when it comes to the fact that you can implement depth into these side-scrolling levels too, both moving into the foreground and the background. Oh, and before I forget, yes, that is a second playable character by the name of Scarlet Rivenson. Apparently stars in a mod all of her own, again powered by the same Doom 3 sourceboard engine, and her starting weapon is absolutely OP as all heck. I didn't swap it out for the entire duration of my playthrough with her, and even then, by the time I got to the end of Hellraiser, I was still having a little bit of a hard time with the ammunition, so, you know, at least my point still stands. Overall, it's tremendously cool seeing Doom 3 transformed into a side-scroll run-and-gun shooter, but at this stage, it still feels fairly prototypical. It's still got a fair ways to go, but I'm sure with the right kind of tuning and the right kind of dedication, you could have this feeling like something that could easily stand side by side with the legacy of Contra. Until then, however, you can always take a gander at this mod for yourself, currently available over at ModDB, and all that you'll require is a copy of Doom 3 and the ability to follow instructions to get the source port working. Link, as usual, in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.